Welcome to the Book Binge. I am your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC, and today, I guess I technically lied in the last video where I said that I would be wrapping up my 2023 spooky season reads as like backup reviews that I need to catch up on next month because, you know, we're still in April and two of those reviews are coming next month, but the first one of them is today. Night of the Mannequins is the first of three outstanding Stephen Graham Jones book reviews that I have left to do. Much like The Haunting of Hill House and Rebecca Before back last month, or I guess it's this month at this point. See, I'm already getting confused in my own head. I'm covering a few books I haven't given proper reviews for yet. Back in October of 2023, so about a year and a half ago, I read 4 Stephen Graham Jones books, Night of the Mannequins being one of them. I also read a couple more that I'm going to be covering next month in May, and then The Only Good Indians, and The Only Good Indians was the only one that I gave its own dedicated review at the time, after, you know, the reading wrap-up thing that I did. These other 3 I haven't done, so I'm catching up on those now that I have caught up on some of the other reviews that have been waiting for altogether way too long. So yeah, this is me circling back around to spooky season 2023. Night of the Mannequins today, Mapping the Interior in a couple weeks, and Flesh Boy a couple weeks after that. Again, because I already reviewed The Only Good Indians. So this one I'm really excited about, actually. So I'm glad I didn't review this one immediately, actually. So, you know, with that being said, let's jump into the good of the book. I would say the first thing that I love about Night of the Mannequins is the premise. It really intrigued me and set up for a great story. Let me actually go ahead and read the back of the book here for you to give you a little bit of context. I normally don't do this, but I'll do it here. One last laugh for the summer as it winds down. One last prank just to scare a friend. Bringing a mannequin into a theater is just some harmless fun, right? Until it wakes up. Until it starts killing. And I found that pretty intriguing. I also was fairly confident that I would enjoy Night of the Mannequins going into it. There's a little bit of color to those expectations as we'll get into at some point in this review, but I have to say, I was interested by the premise of the book, and one of the other things I've come to appreciate about it in time is the misdirect of the book. The premise ends up taking you very different places than you probably think you're going to go based off of, you know, that concept, and like it basically accurately represents the concept, but what I was expecting this book to be was not what it ended up being, so that's why I say that there's kind of a misdirect going on there. The more that I think about this book and, you know, the kind of concept in general, the more I think that it's a genius play on Stephen Graham Jones's part. Night of the Mannequins plays with subverted expectations amongst the best ever, in my personal opinion. One of the other great aspects of this book is that it's basically just a novella. It's very short. The brevity of it is very much appreciated. I would say SGJ does not waste time with the story at all, and also it's not too brief either. So you have something that's really short and snappy, but not so short that you're completely missing maybe necessary material, or where you feel like things could have been / should have been expanded. But I gotta say, probably the best part of Night of the Mannequins for me is the balance of the satirical elements. The too satirical stuff with the too serious stuff, we'll say. It sounds like a very crazy compliment, but it is well done. By design, portions of Night of the Mannequins are super, super bizarre and just bonkers, and no way else to describe them. Other portions of it are super sobering and borders on kind of whiplashy given the more satirical stuff going on at times. But in the end, I felt like these two different ends of the pendulum swinging back and forth complemented each other more than opposed each other. At the least, they worked together far more than against each other, in my opinion. A few words to describe this book, I would say, are fun, entertaining, and hilarious on the one end, and also serious, thought-provoking, and real on the other end. The book is also pretty charming, despite its quirks. But moving on to the bad, there are a couple things that I gotta say about this. The violence and depiction of the violence in Night of the Mannequins may be weirdly graphic and shocking to some degree. Like there are moments of it that are kind of actually hard to stomach, surprisingly hard to stomach. At least that's how I felt when I read it. At times, it got very notable reactions out of me. Not everyone will be a fan of the, let's say, not so slasher approach that SGJ takes in the book. So not everybody's going to click with it. And at times, I felt like it was a bit much as well. Not to say it's bad per se, but yeah, it is a bit much. That is definitely one way to put it. Furthermore, the narration, the main character especially, is rather eclectic and kind of insane, obviously by design. It's a good reference point for the character, but it was also pretty fever dreamy at times for me. And, well, I guess admittedly that's pretty true of Stephen Graham Jones's work as a whole in my experience, but definitely worth noting in the case of Night of the Mannequins. As for the ugly, I would say the ugliest part about Night of the Mannequins is that, at least, as far as my approach was concerned, this book is probably not going to be what you think it will be. I was expecting this book to be a little bit more literal in some ways, so I was disappointed by the question marks at first, Over time, I came to understand and appreciate the intent behind the story. This is at once a satire of superheroes and a satire of serial killers. I guess the back of the book does actually kind of set up these expectations properly. I never read the back of the book before I read the book itself, but that just means that my experience was a little bit more eclectic in that sense. Despite the fact that it is a satire on multiple things, again, superheroes and serial killers, simultaneously, it also rests in a state of very serious exploration of psychopathy and sociopathy. And the more I understood the intent behind the satirical elements versus the serious elements, the more I understood this intent and accepted it, the more I retroactively loved this book. The recommendation of Night of the Mannequins is that I think there is absolutely an audience that Stephen Graham Jones is not for, like not even a little bit. But despite that, if you've enjoyed him before, for example, or if you want to give him a shot like you haven't read any of his stuff, this is, I think, a great place to either start or to go next with Stephen Graham Jones. I would give this book the distinction of 4 out of 5-star masterpiece, not least because I didn't really enjoy it when I read it, actually. That's kind of what ended up happening. I say this isn't what I thought it would be for good reason. I was very disappointed in Night of the Mannequins when I read it. But again, the more that I thought about it over time, the much better it got. If you do read the book or have already read it, I think what it offers only grows richer with time. If you have read it and were mixed like I was at first, I recommend going and watching Murphy Napier's spoiler talk video on the book, because her perspective definitely helped me personally to kind of see what I was missing about it, or to understand what it was that I wasn't enjoying about it previously, and therefore made it really enjoyable in hindsight. From there, I reflected on my time with the book with a slightly different perspective, and my perspective shifted pretty radically as a result. So, this was kind of a pretty out there, and I would guess maybe not amazing review, but I hope that you enjoyed the review nonetheless, and I hope that you've been enjoying the sort of bulk of these catch-up reviews that I've been doing recently. We have yet another month to go of only reviews left. I guess maybe not even just talking about backup reviews. I mean, like, April and May are basically entirely reviews as far as the book binge is concerned. So there's a lot of this stuff happening. I hope you enjoy those. I hope you've been enjoying them, and I hope you continue to enjoy them for a little while longer. After May, we can get back to a more regularly scheduled programming, but for the moment, a lot more reviews are coming, and I hope you're excited for them. For now, I've been your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.